Hey everybody, this is Derek.
This is Mark.
What's up?
Yeah. Oh, dude, already doing the screen share.
I'm sharing my screen. How about that?
If you're listening to this on audio, everybody, I think it'll still be awesome because we're going to be really excited about the pictures we're sharing. But it's going to be even more exciting if you actually get on YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel. If you don't know what it is, just go to my website, Animus Empire YouTube. You'll find it.
Look at these cool dudes right
Look
here.
at those guys. Dude, remember for that split second there where I was in Economy Plus?
Yeah, you're actually sitting in the seat that we originally got for you for about 1 minute until
Do we even have to go into that whole story about how I almost didn't even make it?
yeah, I guess
My
yeah,
shirt's
so
so open. I'm so Fabio. It's awesome.
this is me and Diz on our way to Egypt, everybody. Hi. Yeah, we're back. We got plenty of pictures. That's what we're going to do today. And I don't know, do you want to tell that story or not?
Well, look, if you're going to go to Egypt, make sure that your passport doesn't expire within the next 6 months because you're not allowed into the country, technically,
Right.
unless you fly with Egypt Air. They don't care.
Right.
I think that's their tagline Egypt Air, we don't care.
Right. Yep.
Egypt is a land with a lot of rules, a lot of laws, but nobody really follows them.
Right.
Like any dysfunctional semi dictatorship, like America,
Yeah.
I guess, but a lot worse.
Yeah, yeah. It's a land of contrasts, that's for sure.
Land of contrast.
Yeah, so it was an 11-hour flight to Paris and then like 4.5 hour flight to Cairo. And that's how the trip got underway. Um is there what else should we say up top? We should say Uncharted X. If you don't already know that YouTube channel, definitely check out Ben,
Oh, yeah,
his
well,
YouTube
Ben,
channel.
Brothers of the Serpent guys, you can check them out. I was just listening to some of their podcast. Everybody's cool.
Hmm.
If
And
you want to find
Grimerica.
out more about what we're talking about, and yeah, Grimerica. And also,
Yeah.
I guess check out Graham Hancock's Netflix documentary because I think he's going to be covering, or he's covered some things in that we may be talking about. Although I don't know, have you watched any of that yet?
Yeah, I watched it. I was sick and I fell asleep during part of it, but not because it wasn't good. It was really good. There's not a lot of Egypt stuff, and I guess weren't you telling me this that he got kicked out of Egypt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was. It was somebody in the trip who told you, yeah, but
Oh, okay.
I was there when I'm sure somebody said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it's good so far. I watched about half the episodes, but he just doesn't seem to be presenting very strong evidence for a lost civilization. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Like where is he in episode two? Cholula? What?
Mm-hmm.
Who's even heard of this place? Yeah, you could get some Mesoamericans without any advanced technology to build some pyramid mound. That's not a challenge.
There's a lot of parts of the series where he's showing things that are amazing, and that I'm really
Yeah,
fascinated in. I love hearing about, but they're not necessarily evidence for ancient high technology.
right. Yeah, I
And
agree.
that's
Yeah, it's all cool, but exactly. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. And that same thing is going to be true as we go through these photos as well. Like when we look at, Philae Temple, for example, and we see like how dope it looks, like we're not saying that you couldn't build that thing as an ancient Egyptian. Actually, that was more of a Greek thing anyway. But there are certain things that we are going to see during the slideshow that I think are really much more like the real things to latch onto. It's kind of a dual purpose here. Like Diz has a set of pictures, I have a set of pictures. We're going to trade off screen sharing. And honestly, like I just picked the pictures that looked the best, and not all of them are really focused on the theme of like ancient high technology. But enough of them are, and the rest of them are just cool to check out and see.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of picked the pictures that look cool too.
So let's try to go chronologically. And I guess that would mean that like, you take a look at what picture you want to share first and like interject when it's time for you to hop in. Because I think that based on our discussions, I think I have like 10 times more pictures than you, which is fine, but I want to make sure to get to yours too.
Dude, and all my pictures are front ended on the trip because I had too much diarrhea to work the camera properly towards the
Right.
end.
Right. We'll talk about that
Oh,
too.
dude, this is a sweet picture. I actually have a picture that's similar to this. You know why this is sweet is because you see the Great Pyramid in the background. So we're going in
Mhm.
the Osiris shaft here. You see the Great Pyramid in the background, and there you see as we go into the shaft, you see that the plateau is not natural. Well,
Hmm.
some of it's natural, but some of
The
it's
causeway.
man-made, and that's
Yeah.
freaking incredible.
Right. Yeah. So
Like, I
this
don't know
is,
what Graham Hancock's doing talking about Cholula. I mean, it's sweet, but this is absolutely incredible.
yeah. So this is the first morning of the trip. This is the first like special access thing that we were able to do as part of our tour group, which was a private entry into the Osiris shaft, which is not normally open to the public. And if you go on Wikipedia or whatever and look at like a map of like how the Giza Plateau is laid out, you'll see that there's this causeway, which is what this is over here. And the Osiris shaft is literally just like a tunnel into the ground that's right off to the side of it. And yeah, we got to go down in there, and I have more pictures coming up next about
Oh
what we
yeah, so
saw at
that's
the
the
bottom.
causeway. So I guess that's not really part of the plateau technically, but I do have some sweet pictures of legitimately the plateau, how it's man-made. It's
Hmm.
incredible. Okay, so yeah, that was sweet.
What's my shortcut for going full
Dude, I think
screen?
I picked a picture just like that. But yeah, this is a sweet one going into the Osiris shaft, the second
Hmm.
level down.
Right. This is what I want to do.
What are you looking at?
I'm going full screen. Can you still see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, so the Osiris shaft really is a shaft down into the bedrock, and it's a series of ladders. It's got like three different stages to it. So you go into that tunnel we were just in on the outside, and you're in kind of like a little alcove entryway, and then you go down this first ladder. This is Diz going down the ladder right here,
Oh, sweet.
into yeah, and this is and when you're at the bottom of this, you're in sort of the main room, which has two amazing giant stone boxes
Oh, do you
inside
have
of it.
those pictures too?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, show that. Yeah, that is right. I mean, cut right into the limestone bedrock. That is incredible.
I wonder if I just do this. This might be a bad idea. We did not test this ahead of time, everybody. Shit.
that's that's when Derek and I went on the gay cruise. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Oh yeah, this
Yeah.
worked. This worked. This is what we want. Okay. So yeah.
It's weird seeing all these people in the photos because at this point in the trip, I didn't really know who anybody was.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I was like, oh,
totally.
yeah, there's that guy.
Yeah, there's Brian. This is Ben, the host of Uncharted X. Yeah, and this is one of the stone boxes that's at the bottom of the Osiris shaft. And as you can see, it's massive. It's geometrically precise. It's very Serapeum-ish for those of you who are familiar with the Serapeum. You can
Yeah.
see the sharp corner, flat sides, and it's tucked back into this alcove, which again is just kind of like cut directly into the bedrock. And one of the things that we noticed a lot when we were down in here is these sort of like chisel marks or whatever they are on the wall. And I think, there's an argument
There's
to
no
be
way those
made.
are chisel marks.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I know that you were questioning that. It's
Here's why I
weird.
think that a lot of people do it. I'm not criticizing anybody in particular, but I think when you're trying to offer an alternate explanation for what goes on, you pick your battles.
Mhm,
So some guy could have some crazy theory, but then you point to those marks to him and he'll just say, oh, yeah, those are chisel marks.
mhm,
And you can tell he doesn't really believe it. He just doesn't want to go there because there's too much stuff.
mhm.
There's no way those are chisel marks. And I have other pictures to indicate that, yeah, they're completely parallel. They all have the same circular pattern to them. And we know what chisel marks look like. There are definitive chisel marks in some of these places. And I may have them some of my pictures. They don't look like that.
Mhm,
Like you see the chisel go across the mark. This, it's just one smooth, like a one grinding motion.
mhm,
But yeah, this is a theme. I mean, it's not just the Osiris shaft. You have these really hard boxes or boxes made of hard stone with these lids on them,
mhm.
whether it's diorite, basalt, granite. What are these? I forget what these were.
Yeah, I'm gonna be bad with the rock stuff, that's for
Yeah, I
sure.
don't think these were basalt or diorite. It was something else. Cyanite? Is that something?
That
Anyway,
sounds like a
but
thing.
here's this theme of these hard boxes that are cut in these limestone shafts into bedrock, yeah, into
Right.
limestone bedrock, and just placed there.
Yeah, and we're
And
gonna
the
see more of
Osiris
that
shaft
for
is
sure.
one instance of that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna keep going, but like I said, jump in if you got a pick that you want to throw in here also.
Yeah, no, go for it. This is good.
This one is actually crazier, I think. This is the other box that's down there. It's broken, as you can see here. But the thing that's insane about this is that it's inside of this.
Yeah.
like minuscule. There's no clearance there. This alcove. This is just wild.
Yeah. And it goes right up against the wall,
Hmm.
right up against the wall. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Now, was it this? Oh, and you can also see, by the way, the inner surface of this one, like has a nice lip on it. It's smoothed, very flat. It's pretty amazing. Was this the one that's polished on the backside, or was
I
it the?
forget. Yeah. One of them was polished on the
I
backside.
think it was this one that
Oh,
this guy here, Brian, who was a really cool dude. Shout out to him. He like climbed back there. I mean, that's the cool thing about doing these like private access things. It's like we were all up in this stuff. There was even a pile of bones and pottery in the corner of this room where we were able to just like pick up a bone. I mean, it was wild.
yeah. Piece of a
Um,
skull. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that one of these boxes is like polished on the back side. So it's just like one of those like why? Why would that be polished back there? Like what's it's just is the theme of this whole trip was we wound up with more questions, but they're tantalizing and awesome questions.
Yeah. Really incredible. I mean, how did they
Yes,
even get this down there? And there, you
yeah,
can see on the top there, on the ceiling, you can see some of those so-called chisel marks, and they end right in the wall in these sharp points. It's almost like this.
right,
I mean, I don't literally think this is what it was, but this like thing that carved out like a machine. I know you're not supposed to say machine, but that's really what it seemed like. Oh,
yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah, and just going back to the when I showed Diz going down the ladder, when you're down there, you're just thinking, how is this possible? How could these things have ever gotten down here? And the only thing that I could come up with is that obviously you would have to have them up on end in order to even fit them down like the narrow shaft where the ladder is. And then also I was thinking like maybe if you flooded it, like maybe if you built some sort of like very basic like wooden, almost like a dolly track, like a guide rail for this thing to go down, and then you flooded the entire thing, and then somehow just with a lot of manpower like tipped it up on end and like eased it down, relying on sort of the buoyancy of the water to help keep it from just because this thing weighs dozens of tons, easily.
Yeah,
um
it's probably about 30 tons or so.
so
Like I'm some expert. I don't know, but yeah, that looks like about a yeah. The boxes in the Serapeum are twice that size, easy.
yeah, yeah, we'll get there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll
I'll,
get
I'll
to the
try to.
Serapeum. By the way, this picture does this box justice.
Mhm.
We'll get to some pictures where it does not do the box justice. I mean, it's
Oh,
insane
dude.
how large these are.
Yeah, that's one thing that was frustrating is that some of this stuff was not really capturable on camera. I did get some videos which I didn't include in this slideshow, but maybe, I shared them with you. You can look at them, and you might want to use those in some sort of future content if you keep going down this road. Um, so yeah, in addition to having that room in the Osiris shaft with these two boxes, there's another ladder down to another level lower, which is really nuts. It's completely flooded down there. There's just basically a spot for like your foot to stand on,
Mm-hmm.
but there is actually another box down there. You can't even see it because it's just completely flooded. I mean, this is real Indiana Jones stuff. Um, so I don't have like a bunch of pictures capturing what it was like down there, but our buddy Carl from Norway took this picture of me going down there, just to demonstrate again like how narrow the shaft is and everything.
And there you see the
So
parallel chisel marks.
yeah, yep, that's right, right here.
Horizontal. So if you're chiseling, you're going to go horizontal. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, it's weird.
And then it goes, look, it goes across the whole side the of the shaft going down.
And you could say like, well, yeah, maybe later on with steel tools, someone came along and widened this out and did this tool work. And it's
Right,
like, yeah,
maybe.
maybe that is true, but you're still left with the question of just like, but how did the boxes get down there? Because if
Yeah,
they came along later and used more tools, that just means they made it bigger. So when it was smaller, how the hell did they get the boxes down? It's just a mind bender.
yeah.
So like I said, this was early in the morning on the first day of the trip, after whatever, a day of travel, and it was just a real dive into the deep end. It was awesome. Um, so this is Diz coming back out, and then we had the rest of the day on the actual Giza plateau dealing with the big pyramids. So that's what I was going to move on to next, but I'll stop there in case you have anything.
No, I think you showed pictures that I was going to show, so it's fine. Yeah, keep going.
All right, so just some basic pyramid pics. And by the way, I have like a repository of backup, pictures. So if you want to see more of anything, just let me know and I can dig them up. This is a good shot that kind of captures, um, you know, all three. We're at the corner of one, kind of looking down at all three of them.
Yeah.
You want to
Which
give
one?
yeah,
Like, what was your impression of the pyramids when you saw them?
they're amazing. They have an effect on you, like when they're in your visual field, they have an effect on you that is hard to put into words. It goes beyond just seeing a big building, I would say. Um, this one, and by the way, like I may have gone on this trip, but I'm still ignorant. I don't know which one is which. I don't know the names of each of
That's the
these.
middle one. That's the Khafre.
Yeah, this is Khafre. Um, this one is mind blowing because it has, the casing up top. But the Khufu is the Great Pyramid. That's the biggest one. It's actually bigger than this one, right?
It's bigger in mass, but I think the Khafre one is technically taller because the plateau that it's on is a little bit higher.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I think overall, if you adjust for that, the Khufu one's a little bit taller.
So yeah, one impression I would say is like, yeah, this one is just really striking because it has the casing still on top. And we're gonna see later that the one that has the red granite casing at the bottom is also just amazing. To be
Menkaure.
able to Menkaure to see that stuff up close is just amazing. And that's also the one that we went inside of on the first day, right?
No, we went inside the Khafre one.
We went inside of Khafre on the first day. Okay. And then which one were we inside of on the last day?
That was the Khufu one.
That's Khufu. Yeah. So that's the Great Pyramid. Yeah.
That's
Right.
the Great
Okay.
Pyramid, right?
Yeah. Which was, I mean, that's the
Yeah,
grand
we didn't go in
finale.
the Menkaure pyramid.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say that's kind of my impression is just, yeah, it has an effect that you can understand why this would be an important thing for a sort of magical or mysterious reason. All
Yeah.
throughout history, it's transcendent in some sense. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, overwhelming, I think, to see them, but I think going inside, the effect was multiplied by 10.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there is something really interesting about going inside these things.
Hmm.
It's crazy. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
For me, especially, I think the red and the bent pyramid one, that was just
Yeah.
crazy. Oh, but this is one of the uh, mortuary temples, probably for
Yeah.
the middle pyramid, right? The Khafre one.
Right. So we spent some time after walking around sort of the perimeters of these things, hanging out in this mortuary temple area. This is Yusuf Awan, which everyone will know if you watch Ben's channel. He's a fantastic guy, and he was with us for most of the trip, and kind of taught us the most, of anybody on the trip. He knows, everything about this stuff. And I think the main thing that, well, he was pointing out several things here in this mortuary temple. Very interesting site. I mean, one of the things which you can see right away is that, this is something built on top of something else. This is not the same thing as whatever this is, I think is one striking thing about it. But also the big thing that he was focusing on, and correct me if I'm wrong, was the erosion aspect of this, right? Like this is
Yeah,
weird that the most eroded thing is on the top of this thing, right?
I I was kind of annoyed because you really can't get a good answer on how long would it take to erode limestone like that.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know the answer. But yeah, I have a picture from this we can get to. But I mean, what's fascinating about this, Graham Hancock going to Cholula, which is incredible. I get it. But there is limestone. Okay, so there's eroded limestone, and then there's granite cut to fit the eroded parts of the limestone.
Right. Right.
That is absolutely incredible. Like large pieces of granite. I mean, yeah, I have a couple of pictures of that we can get to, but maybe that's what this is. I just didn't have a picture of this one. Is that
Should we
vertical
switch
piece
over?
there? Is that granite? I
I
know
think,
the horizontal ones are limestone, but
yeah, I think that's what this was. I'm pretty sure that's why I
okay,
took
yeah,
this one.
there's
Yeah.
several examples of it. Yeah, I didn't get that one. Good, I'm glad you did. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And you look at it, you look at the backside, and it's cut exactly, and there is eroded plateau floor, so-called plateau floor, built by man-made blocks. And then
And you
there's
can even see,
basalt cut. There's
mhm,
basalt cut perfectly to the eroded part right on top of the limestone. And the basalt is perfectly flat, perfectly
mhm.
level.
Yeah, this was a
Crazy.
real.
But
Yeah, this was.
basalt's like a little bit harder than granite, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 6.5 on the Mohs. Granite's more of a 6. I guess it depends on the kind of granite. I could think granite's an umbrella term. I think maybe technically basalt is a kind of granite. I don't know.
Yeah, I was reading about the Mohs scale a little bit. It is complicated. Like, there's not one Mohs scale number for granite or for diorite, for
Right.
example, because those things, it depends on the specific composition
Yeah.
of like the specific flavor of the stone that you're dealing with. So you do got to be careful with that. I think it is a little bit easy to fall in the trap of like, oh, this thing's a 9. It's impossible to make this without diamonds or something. I think there's a little bit more subtlety to it than that, although that doesn't take away from the overall thesis of technology somehow playing a part in this.
Yeah. Well, it definitely goes against the or discredits the idea that at least the granite was poured. I know that's some theory that you probably haven't heard of on the internet. A bunch of
Yeah,
documentaries about that the granite
geopolymer.
was poured. Well, you can't just melt granite and then have it re-solidify and have it look like natural granite because granite's made up of a bunch of different rocks, feldspar, mica, I don't know, a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't just re-solidify like a natural piece of granite. That's not how it works. It's not a single homogeneous composition.
And one of the guys on the trip who was really cool is a geologist, um, and a guy named Chuck, and he was talking about the fact that like even if you go with that theory that they had some way of liquefying or molding or working with some sort of moldable softened stone, um, if you were to do that, like it wouldn't look the way that it looks when it was cooled or rehardened or whatever. It would have, the process of bending it or molding it would have like aligned or realigned or like settled the individual components and crystals and minerals in like an observable way. You
Yeah.
know, just like if you try to like goof around with like, glass that has something, mixed in with it or something, you're going to see the
Yeah,
stretch
like when
marks,
you
so to
play with
speak.
silly putty, like two different colors of
Right.
silly putty, you twist them together. Yeah.
Right. So geopolymer was kind of like a recurring joke because I don't think anybody really thinks that theory holds that much water.
Yeah, and even if some of it was geopolymer, this clearly wasn't because we're
Mm-hmm.
looking here at the second pyramid, the Khafre pyramid, and what's fascinating about this is it's cut out of the plateau.
Yeah, so I took a landscape photo from the corner here because I wanted to make sure that that was obvious. So just yeah, notice that over here on this corner of the pyramid, we're at ground level, and this entire pyramid is on a completely flat. What's the name of the structure that the pyramid is built on top of? I keep saying plinth,
Uh,
but there's another name for
Plateau,
it.
sockle,
There's sockle. Yeah, exactly. It's a completely flat on the sockle. And if you follow it onto the other side here, you'll see over in this corner, we are down, what is it, 11 feet? Something like that.
11
More
meters.
11 meters into the bedrock. So it's surface level over here. You go completely straight across, and then you're into the bedrock because the plane of the actual plateau is at an angle here. And for some reason, the pyramid builders knew that, understood that, and they needed or wanted this thing to be perfectly flat. So they basically made a quarry over here
Yeah.
asymmetrically, like on this one side of the pyramid and
Yep.
not the other, so that the pyramid itself could be built perfectly flatly.
Yeah,
And when you're standing over here, it's just amazing. It's just like, why? What the hell is this?
absolutely incredible. And notice the tiles on the ground. Look
Mm-hmm.
at all the polygonal, odd shaped tiles on the ground. I mean, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
On top of everything. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, so the first six, I think, or five or six levels of the middle pyramid are actually bedrock.
Right.
They're not they're not blocks. Okay, Derek, I think I want to share my screen here because I got a great picture to go along with this, and I'll let
All right.
you share
Sweet.
again.
All right. Let's try this.
All right, share screen.
This is going to go for like 3 hours, by the way. Hope you got some coffee.
Yeah. All right, is that working? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, so here I have this picture here. How's that looking?
Yeah, click that full screen button.
Here.
Hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Nice.
So here we have 11 meters. Yeah, I think it's like 35 feet or so. 11 meters here. And all of this was cut out to here, to this part on the pyramid. So this is all bedrock, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is all bedrock. And what did they do with all of this limestone here? They took it and to the other side. So I guess the east side of the plateau to level it off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you see these huge blocks, which I'm going to show you here. I got a great picture. Bobist S. Is this it? Yeah. Boom. That's the
Nice.
Khafre pyramid. This is not the causeway. This is the east side of the plateau. Those are large granite blocks to level off it. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
These are huge. I mean, some of these, I mean, they're probably like 50 tons or something.
Yeah.
Which, granted, the Egyptians could have moved around, I think, but this is incredible.
Right.
Why,
Yeah.
why would you do this? Anyway, okay. I'm going to stop sharing. You can go back sharing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
All right. So
But by the way, I mean, the most, but my biggest red pill moments in all this, I mean, not that I have a definitive theory what happened. I don't agree with the mainstream. I don't agree with Graham Hancock. I don't know what's going on. But some of my biggest red pill moments, I was telling you, dude, is when I'm just listening to mainstream guys talk about this, and like I know you're wrong. Like one of
yeah.
those guys said, "Well, why did they build the pyramids here?" Oh, it's because it was a flat plateau. It wasn't flat.
Right.
They had to engineer the plateau, and you just skip over that in your lecture. Like anybody would question why they would build the pyramids here as an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not flat. They just
We're
the
looking at it right
construction
now.
that went into before you even started building the pyramid is unbelievable. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So as you said, on day one, we got to go into one of these shafts. This is like, there's going to be a lot more of this later, but this was our first little taste of it. And yeah, there's a box inside of this chamber. It's not really a Serapeum box, but it's still smooth and granite and looks machined. It has this weird like inner inset on it, and you can see here it has a lip so that the lid was intended to be able to be slid off, and it's in one direction. That lip doesn't go this way, it only goes out the
yeah,
back like that. Very interesting. This is the room in which it resides. It's graffitied by Belzoni, March 1818. That was the archaeologist who uncovered this place. And you can see here that like this is us down in the bedrock, and this is a perfect A-frame roof with one slab of stone on each side, just perfectly positioned to
yeah,
make that A-frame. And then the entire pyramid is above all of this.
dude. It's incredible. I mean, I'm just remembering how it was to stand in this room and just like, I mean, honestly, like I know I told you this on the trip, but I just got this sense of I don't know if it was security or relief. Maybe it was just buildup because I was looking forward to this trip for a long time. I mean, maybe that's just it. No, but I didn't get that in a lot of different. Like I didn't get that in the Serapeum.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I know this isn't science, but it just yeah, there's this sense of security, not relief so much, but yeah, I think just security is it's like this is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Yeah, so those are limestone A-frame. Yeah, laid
Mm-hmm.
in there very well.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and
This
this is
was
insane.
speaking of like red pill moments. I mean, this is just kind of a mind blower. Um, Kyle from the Snake Bros was really getting up in here, and him and Russ, the other Snake Bro, was we're focusing on this, which is this is a portion of the pyramid where the granite casing stones was originally covered all of the entire thing. They were stolen and used for other purposes over the centuries. Um, but originally it was all covered by this, and there's a couple courses, as they're called, remaining,
Right,
and
courses. Yeah.
you can see right here, I mean, right in front of your eyes, how this is smoothed. Right. So obviously, what happened is that when they quarried these blocks, they quarried them out in these sort of like puffy, pillowy kind of shapes, where it's like the extra stone. The Snake Bros referred to them as like packing material. You just
Yeah.
keep extra stone mass on each individual block that you quarry in case it gets nicked during shipping or whatever the hell. And also, a lot of them have these nubs on them,
Just
And
like
there's
in
even
Peru.
just like you see in other megalithic sites like in Peru. Yeah, and we'll also see examples where you can tell these things have been removed. Like there was one of those there, and then they took it off when they were done moving it. But it's this rounded shape of the
Yeah.
smoothing here that is just like, what does this? How the hell do you make that happen? And furthermore, why did
Diorite
you
pounders.
right? And furthermore, why did you stop? I mean, this is a big thing that Russ from the Snake Bros, he gave an amazing presentation on our cruise ship one night, actually, where he talked about how at so many different megalithic sites like this, you can see basically like a pencils down moment where it's just like they were doing precision work and then they stopped before they were done for some reason. And, you can read into that maybe that's suggestive of some sort of cataclysm. There's other interpretations too. To be fair, one thing you could say is that, well, maybe they built this whole thing and then later on they developed the technology or they realized that they had the time left to do sort of more devotion, more work, put more perfection into the site. And so then they began this new phase where they began the smoothing. And then for whatever reason, weren't able to finish it or had something else important come up.
But how did they smooth it?
But just how is it done in the first place is, yeah,
And I
intriguing.
understand you can remove granite with diorite pounders, but it doesn't look like that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look even close to that. And that would take forever. Okay, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they had a lot of time. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so you can go on YouTube and look at a bunch of videos and look at people trying to replicate what the Egyptians did with the tools that supposedly the Egyptians had. And they do like one little square inch of something and say, look, we could do it. And you're like, okay, you can do that one little square inch, but then you go to Egypt and it's just piles, tons and tons of granite everywhere,
Yeah.
all up and down the Nile. I mean, limestone too. Limestone's not exactly soft, and some of the limestone's really hard. Just massive piles of it, tens of meters in the air. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, you see these people do these experiments, and you go, yeah, you could do it, but can you really? And I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, so this one, I think I remember being, not only can you see the casing here and you can see how disrupted it all is from where it was like being stolen and the difference between, this is what we think of as a pyramid, but this is really more what it was really like if you could have seen it originally. Um, but also just the fact that this temple, which is itself kind of awesome, we got to walk through here and everything that's next to the pyramid, but you can see how sort of shittily it's just sort of like built right up against the thing. And it's just one of those things where like, look, this is not a smoking gun. We're not looking at like machine marks on stone or anything, but you do just kind of have to ask the question of like the people who could get that bedrock perfectly level and who could do that polishing that we were just looking at and who could do all of this stuff. Like, do we really think that they were going to do this to like connect their temple to their pyramid? Or really is what we're looking at, as Ben would say, a tale of two technologies, where really like this thing is some site that is important. And then somebody else who doesn't know all of those secrets comes along later, reveres that site, repurposes it for their own use. That's what I see when I look at this kind of a thing.
well, what's so interesting about this is it's the reverse of what I said before. Of there's this weathered limestone with these grooves in it from the wind weathering, and then you come in and you perfectly carve the backside of a granite block and put it on top of it so it fits the weathered limestone. So that says that the guys who did the granite came around later. But here it looks like the opposite. The guys who came and did limestone came around later.
Right.
It's just, you can't make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't make sense of it.
Okay, so this is my last picture from Giza. And do you want to throw anything else there before we move on?
Yeah, sure. Let me check real quick. I think I might have a few.
We do go to Giza again at the end of the trip. So that's, like I said, the grand finale at the end of this.
Can you stop sharing your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm gonna share what's going on here.
Got it.
Okay, so this is a bad picture of what I was talking about. So these are granite or I don't know. It's some hard stone
Mm-hmm.
cut to fit the weathered limestone. I didn't get a good picture of the back, but here again, you see the supposed chisel marks just
Hmm.
everywhere. I mean, this is one thing that I kept picking up on this and the really high, just uh, very well cut lintels.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's that. And then, yeah, just like a detail like this.
Yeah.
Look at that.
What?
Why would you do that? And this is something that I kept saying. It's like you had the ability to not melt granite. But by the way, these are the casing stones. This is part of the lip that Derek was showing on the Menkaure pyramid. You didn't have the ability to melt granite, but you had the ability to turn it into like a marshmallow consistency and just kind of stick them together. I mean, that's what it was like. And I have another picture here that indicates that. Where is it? Is this it? Oh no, this is the basalt and the limestone. I mean,
Yeah, that's insane too.
yeah. So that's what I was saying. The basalt floor and this basalt here is it's totally level.
Yeah, you're walking on top of that when you're walking
Yeah.
around outside the pyramid.
Um. Okay. Yeah. That's it. Okay. So yeah,
Sweet.
my next pictures are from the museum. So yeah, we can go to yours. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a lot of museum stuff, and I don't have a lot of like reliefs and paintings that were inside of temples and tombs, although we did see a ton of that. Mainly just because I wanted to try to like, focus on the stuff that's the craziest. But rest assured there's a lot of those pictures as well. Um, this is the unfinished box that's inside the Cairo Museum.
Derek, you had to share your screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, everyone can see that except for you. Let's do this.
Yeah, what is this for other people? No, this is just for me.
That's right. I forgot. There you go. Now you can see it.
Yeah.
This is Josh. What's up, dude? I hung out with him one night on the trip. Um, yeah, this is an unfinished box, very similar to like the box that we saw inside the pyramid chamber, or a Serapeum box. And it's just out in the like main like foyer of the Cairo Museum. Um, and you can see right here that it has this insane saw cut in it. So this is a big one that a lot of people pick up on. Ben has talked about this, of course. But yeah, just a very noticeable, like very obvious tool mark.
Yeah, and
Now the
what you may not be
question,
able to tell from the picture is it looks like there's like a guiding mark in here.
mhm,
And
yeah,
maybe they were
like
just kind of
this.
chipping away at it to put some kind of guide. Maybe it's not that big a deal, but it looks. And I don't know if you have got any pictures down here, but there's definite saw cuts, like circular saw cuts down here.
Yeah, I didn't get good details on this, but I just wanted to, yeah, raise this one because this is a notable one. I mean, you can make the argument that this is just, yeah, they sawed stuff. They did it by hand with, saws and, sand or, diamond powder or something, but it's still freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And one
Yeah,
thing that we
maybe.
learned at the Cairo Museum, which like I can't really show a picture of, but it's an anecdote that's worth imparting, is like there's a whole room, there's multiple different displays at the museum that are just dedicated to every individual different type of tool and just like cultural aspects of ancient Egyptian life. Everything from like the farming implements they used to the musical instruments they played for fun to mirrors, to surgical instruments, just anything that you could possibly think of. And yet there's no good record of any tool that could ever accomplish something like making a Serapeum box, or accomplishing this,
Dude,
sawing
all they have
into
in the
granite.
Cairo Museum is a copper saw that was maybe 18 inches long.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. And speaking of, yeah, you wouldn't be able to do this. I mean, this is the famous statue that was found upside down in a
Khafre
pit,
enthroned.
the Khafre throne, found upside down in the Valley Temple, which is in front of the Sphinx, which we got private access to on the last day of the trip. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this statue is absolutely incredible to be up close to.
It, it
It's
it's it's incredibly lifelike.
it's unbelievably artistic. First of all, just forget about thinking about the technology aspect of it. It's just striking for being, even according to the mainstream story, thousands of years old. It's just incredible. But then the other aspect of it is just how could this possibly have been accomplished? The detail, the finesse of the way that like the curves are shaped into the stone, and like even the nails on the toes. And then also, as Ben has discussed, and as we were able to see, there are overcuts in the statue where you can see that something like a powered tool had just like dug in a little bit too much, like underneath his arms or around the back here.
Right.
Just an incredible thing. Do you have any like close-ups of that you want to get into? Because I just threw in this one picture just to capture the
No, yeah,
moment.
I have a picture of this too. I mean, it's you get that lifelike feeling if you're next to a Greek statue, but that's made out of marble, right? This is
Mm-hmm,
diorite,
mm-hmm,
and the fact that it could have that kind of like it's creepy standing next to this thing because you're thinking he's just gonna like turn. He's just gonna his head's gonna turn. He's gonna get up and start walking away. That's how lifelike it is.
yeah.
I mean, the face is perfect. There's an expression on the face. It's not a totally blank expression.
Mm-hmm.
He has a little bit of a smile. It's weird, dude.
Yeah,
It's weird.
yeah.
Whoever did this wasn't their first go at it. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah.
You want
Anyway,
to show a picture here? I can stop.
no, this is basically what my picture is. It's fine.
I had to throw this one in real quick. This is one of the multiple levels of sarcophagus that King Tut was found inside of. Very cool to actually see in person. A lot of real gold on it, which is really cool. Um, there is a whole Tut room that's right past this inside of the museum where no photography was allowed. But we were able to see like each different layer. I think there were five total layers of sarcophagi, if I remember correctly. And then the crazy thing about it, which we'll get to later on, is that in the Valley of the Kings, we actually went inside of his tomb, and his mummy is still there, preserved under glass. So
Yeah, I took a selfie with it.
we saw his weird shriveled up face. Um, so yeah, it's King Tut.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I have from the museum because I wanted to kind of focus on the sites. But do you want to take over there for any additional museum stuff?
Yeah, I'll show you a few that I have here.
Okay,
Um,
I
well,
can
I
see
guess
it.
it's just this. So we may say more about the stone bowls,
Mm-hmm.
stone vessels. This is one stone vessel that was made partway through, and
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't touch this, right? Because this was behind glass, but we touched granite like this, and say more about this later. But the level of smoothness on this is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And some of this granite's been outside for thousands of years, and it still feels like a countertop. I mean, in a way, smoother than a countertop. I don't know. There's less friction.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives us some indication of how they made bowls like this. I actually don't have any other pictures of a complete bowl, but just look up 40,000 stone bowls, stone vases found under the Saqqara pyramid. Another one of those smoking gun things. I think that is a real smoking gun.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, there's a lot of cool shit at the museum, which you can see like in Ben's videos. We saw the schist disc, which is a very interesting, weird piece. Um,
Yeah, I don't have a picture of that.
we saw there's a Sphinx statue inside of the Cairo Museum that has like a totally like crappy like graffiti like tagged onto it, just like one of those examples that Ben likes to use of somebody came along later and put their cartouche onto this thing, but that doesn't mean that they were the ones who made this thing in the first place because you can see the level of sophistication is totally different. The museum was definitely cool, but this is the next day. We're gonna jump right into the second like complete mind blower after our private access to the Osiris shaft, which was the Osireion. So this is in Abydos, Egypt. Um, This is the Temple of Seti the First. This was like a
Yeah.
3 hour drive. This is like a really long bus ride this morning to get out here. And
Yeah, 3 hour drive to go 15 miles because
yeah,
everything
exactly.
sucks in
It's
Egypt.
it's not that far away, but the roads and the checkpoints and the speed bumps are just insane.
You
Yeah,
have to put a cow catcher on for the trash.
yeah. The driving in Egypt is some of the worst in the world. We were looking at the statistics. Um, like yeah, if you go by like fatalities and accidents like per mile driven, countries all over Africa like are all like at the bottom of the list. Egypt is not the absolute worst, but I think if you kind of normalize that and ratio it out for like how populous and industrialized the country is, that really kind of puts Egypt towards the top of the heap. I mean, Cairo is like New York City. I mean, it's a huge booming metropolis in terms of the size, the magnitude, and the population of the place. But the driving is just like it's indescribably bad. It makes no sense. There's people just standing in the middle of traffic, walking around on the highways for no reason. Like just it's wild, man. So trying to go
Dude,
anywhere in the bus was a time consuming affair. This was the
there are
longest.
women in the middle of, I mean, they don't really have highways. They have roads that are sort of like highways, but they're sort of not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's women standing in the median selling boxes of tissue.
Yeah,
What's going? It's not at a stoplight. What are you doing?
yeah,
Remember that part in the trip, Derek? I was like getting like physically
yeah.
upset. Like,
It's
what are you
upsetting.
doing? What are you doing with your life? I know you're a human. I know you can do something better than selling tissues at just some random spot in the middle of a highway on the median.
Yeah, it's
Unbelievable.
it's a bummer, man.
Like there's no way that that is the best decision you could make for your day. Like what are you I mean, yeah, it's just so sad. Anyway.
Well, when you show up here at the Temple of Seti the First as a normal tourist, if you don't get to go on an awesome trip with Uncharted X, you get to visit this temple, which is amazing. There's a lot of cool shit inside of here. I think I have a picture or two. But behind this entire place, they discovered and are still actively exploring and discovering an additional site, which is presumably older, and it's definitely more amazing. It's called the Osireion, and that's where we went first on this day. This is a top-down view when you're approaching the Osireion before you actually get inside of it. As you can see, it's this temple courtyard type structure that's down in the ground, surrounded by these mud brick, tiered walls. Um, that's just like out back of the temple, just like in the dirt. And it was designed to have these like water pools in them. Um, some of them, like I believe this one, are actually very shallow. They're places where pillars formerly stood. But this thing is that's intentional. That's there to be like a water pit or whatever it
Yeah.
is. We don't really know what the purpose of this site is, and we also don't really know how deep this is.
Nope.
They obviously have tried like probing the bottom, but it's Ben was saying like they try to probe the bottom of this thing, and it basically becomes like this sludge silt. Like it becomes basically indeterminate, like how much of it was like really built that deep versus just you're just kind of down in the
But it
sludge. I
at
mean,
least goes down 45, 50 feet.
it's scary deep. I mean, you don't want to
Yeah.
fall in there. It's like
No.
creepy walking around or crossing one of these little lumber bridges. Is That's a little bit scary for a second there. But I mean, as you can see, it's just like when you first approach this place, just the massiveness of these pieces of stone is just
Granite. This is granite.
it just like seizes your senses. It's just you look at it and it's just like you really don't know how to make sense of it. And this is just like the far away view. I mean, we got to go down in here privately. It was only us doing it, and actually walking around on this entire site, and it was just mind boggling. So this is when we're actually down standing in there. This is one of the ones that was just particularly dumbfounding. This lintel piece here, it's enormous. I don't know, 70 tons. I mean, I'm not, again, not an expert at being able to estimate these things, but enormous. And it's thick too. I mean, this thing was probably, I don't know, 5 feet of depth
Yeah.
to the stone there.
Yep.
And the whole floor of the place, obviously, is these precision
Yeah.
pieces too, fitted together geometrically with
Humongous.
corners. It's just, yeah, mind blowing. But you can really kind of see it from here. Just some of these, and this site is, pretty pristine. This doesn't have a lot of foot traffic from, regular tourists. Some of these pieces are so sharp, and they just have like sharp 90-degree corners on them. It's not like the blocks that the pyramids are made out of, where it's limestone, it's been exposed to the elements for, thousands of years. This is like, it's still kind of, it almost looks fake. I mean, it's just these like building blocks of just sharp,
Yeah.
machined, refined pieces of enormous stone.
Yep.
And the other insane thing about it, this is one of the corners. You can see the water reflecting up here on the ceiling. That's one of my theories, is that one of the reasons why they liked having water on these sites was just back then, when there was, no tech, no electricity, presumably, although I guess that's questionable. We don't know. But when we don't know what their entertainment really was, and there was a spiritual aspect to things. I think just the image of water like reflecting this like shimmering onto a temple is itself like powerful, and it could have been one of the reasons why around the world they liked having water at these sites. But the real crazy thing in this corner is the smoothing, and you see it in two different directions here. You see here this vertical up down smoothing of these stones to turn it into a flat wall. And then you see here, just like we saw at the pyramids previously, that sort of rounded side to side smoothing happening. It's just like amazing. And again, the work is stopped. For some reason, they smoothed this, but not the whole thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's completely dumbfounding. I mean, it's truly exhausting to be in some of these places like the Osireion, because it's just, you just feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
You feel like a fat retard. Like, oh, I just want lunch. I can't think of doing any of this stuff.
Yeah. And some of these pillars are just, yeah, monumental. Just hard to describe how huge and impressive they are. Perfectly geometric, um, still in basically pristine condition. And then over here at this other end of the site, it's mostly gone now, but there was another one of those perfect A-frames, similar to what we saw in the pyramid chamber. Here's one of the pieces of it there. And in this wall right here, there was a door that went into an inner room that was covered with like astronomical oriented like paintings and what do you call it, reliefs, that was very interesting to just browse around, like its own little miniature art gallery. um, I don't think that I included a picture from inside of there, but there was a lot of cool shit in there.
Yeah, very cool. Hey, let me share my screen here because I got a cool picture in
Yeah.
reference to the Assyrian. Um, Here, right? So this could be Peru.
Yeah.
It has this pillowy. You have these little pieces here all throughout the wall. Why would you do that? I mean, this is sandstone, so it's a little bit softer stone. I mean, but still, I mean, just to get this technique, that pillowing technique that you would see at a place like Sacsayhuaman. Yeah, little pieces down here. Could be Peru, could be Easter Island.
And this little alcove that you're showing here, that's what's all around the perimeter, like the other
Yeah,
side of the water. If you close those little,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
cross those little bridges.
These little alcoves that you go in, and it's what, maybe like a 7 by 7 room, maybe 6 feet high,
Yeah.
just made of massive blocks. Here's another picture from the Assyrian, just looking through.
Yeah. That's
I'm
looking
in
out
one
from
of those
inside of one
alcoves
of
now.
those. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got. Oh, stop sharing. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right, so over in the Temple of Seti the First itself, this is one of the things that this temple is famous for, is the King's List. This is a famous relief, um, where, do you remember the names of the pharaohs? This Ramses the First.
That's, I think that's Seti the First showing the King's List to Ramses the Second. He's the young one.
Ramses the Second,
Right,
yeah,
one of the famous, pharaohs of of Egypt.
Yeah, so this was really important for historians because this is essentially a chronological list of the names of each of the kings in ancient Egypt leading up to this point. Yusuf was really good at like walking through each one of these things, reading it, explaining what it meant, and also pointing out the fact that some were actually omitted for political reasons or whatever. So there's always a little bit of subtlety. You don't get like a
Akhenaten, dude, nobody liked him.
yeah, yeah. You never get like a perfect, decoder ring for any of this kind of stuff if you're a historian. But this is really cool, and there was a lot of this type of stuff around the temple, but this is a super famous one. It's just an example of kind of what you're able to see when you're inside of one of these temples. We wound up spending a lot of time just basically wandering around rooms like this, and there's so much stuff on the walls, each of which has its own like deep meaning that relates to like mythology or politics or just their lore. It's really too much. Like it's an amazing thing. If I was like a folklorist, that would have been like the total like obsession of the trip, and there's an infinite amount of that stuff. But
Yeah.
like honestly, a lot of it is just like I didn't retain it because it's just so much information. We
Yeah.
did have great guides who like did explain a lot of it, which was awesome, but I couldn't recount it to you. This also shows you one of the false doors, which was used a lot inside of the temples. It represented like a passage into the next world. Um,
It was a
and this,
literal Stargate.
yeah, and the ceiling is in pretty good shape here, and you see this on the ceilings a lot. This sort of like it looks gold and blue now. It's hard to say exactly what it looked like originally, but it has a lot of star patterns and stuff like that in the ceilings. Really cool. Again, it's one of those things where just kind of like overwhelms your senses to really be inside of a place like this, but
Yeah.
tried to
It's too
capture it a
much.
little. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good there because
What's that? Is that Karnak?
this is moving on to Dendera, the Temple of
Oh,
Hathor. So
Dendera.
this is the next day, right? Didn't we do this the next
Yeah.
day?
Hmm.
Yeah. So then we went to the Dendera,
Dendera.
um, the
Temple of Hathor.
Temple of Hathor, which is another famous site. Um, Similar story, to the Temple of Seti from yesterday. Um, a lot of it is defaced. You see this a ton. That later Greeks or whatever came along, and reused this site, but had to like deface the heathenistic gods off of it. Um, this temple is actually probably in better shape overall, even than the previous one was, and it was just again an overwhelming amount of stuff just inscribed everywhere here. And then you get to go down through like a little chamber into like a recess, very claustrophobic recess of the temple, and see the famous Dendara
Stuffy.
light bulbs.
Incredibly stuffy,
Yeah, it was a little bit a
which
lot
I
of the
think added to the claustrophobia, but yeah.
yeah, a lot of these doing these sorts of things where you're actually crawling around through the shafts in the pyramid or into like the secret chambers of the tombs. It can be spooky if you're claustrophobic, but this is a famous thing. These are the Dendera light bulbs. People think that these kind of look like light bulbs, and I think people who are a little bit more woo woo about the whole thing like actually think that this is like a smoking gun. Like, look, they had electricity. Um, this is actually like a relatively common theme. This is like a lotus leaf with a snake inside of it. But I think because of this
The
thing
Jed
here,
pillar.
yeah, this Jed pillar, which is another sort of symbol being right next to it, it just your brain starts to think light bulb. But it was
I mean,
cool. It was
plus you're
just
in this really dark space. I mean, this is underground, right? You're like going, or maybe it's
mm-hmm,
not, but
mm-hmm,
it's in the basement. Okay, so you're on the first floor of the temple. You go down maybe 10 steps. I mean, the ceiling's not high, so it's probably just 10 steps. And you're thinking, well, how could they get along here without lights?
right. And then the cool thing about
This
this day
dude,
was, yeah, we got to go on top of this entire building, which
this
is another one of those things that the normal tourists are not allowed to do. So now we're looking down from above at what the roof of the temple really is like. And again, these pieces are just unbelievably huge.
oh, incredible.
Yeah, and they're
And there's
fitted
just
together.
layers and layers of them. Yeah, this is when I started to think. So I went into this thinking, okay, so the the antediluvian civilization, they did all the granite. The Egyptians came and they did all the limestone. And this is when I started to think, oh, dude, they didn't even do the limestone. Like what with that freaking 18-inch copper slab we saw in the Egyptian Museum? Like that's it? No, like the corners and the way that these are fit together, and these are 15 meters high. There's no way.
It's crazy. I'm not saying I don't believe your theory. It's definitely like a
Yeah, I
possibility.
know.
But they did go out of their way when we went to Luxor Temple, which is coming up soon here, to talk about how like they do believe that there is like a totally coherent story as to how something as impressive and amazing as Luxor Temple could be constructed with ancient Egyptian technology. It basically involved this sort of like top down approach where like you build up a sort of scaffolding of like earthworks and mud bricks and stuff and start to like kind of set up your things that way, and then you remove the dirt and the earthworks and
Dude.
stuff, just leaving
Oh,
the stone behind.
okay, and then I go watch a YouTube video of like modern day people doing it, and it's always a fiasco.
Yeah,
They don't even get close.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, maybe. But then the other thing here is if you notice in the background, I mean, that's all mud brick.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
all
the
this stuff.
Egyptians came around, they revered this temple. They definitely carved their likenesses into it, and then they try to protect it with mud brick because that's all they
Hmm.
could really do, which is still pretty good. I mean, it's still standing today, thousands of years old. I mean, but there's a huge discrepancy between these massive pieces of limestone and this mud brick. Yeah,
Yeah, this stuff is cool too. You'll see how like it's scored all over the place. You can see these like ridges and stuff that are in these pieces. And I guess the explanation for that is that that's where other things previously stood.
dude,
And
there's no explanation. I mean, I love talking to Giza for Ben, like asking Ben. He's like, dude, nobody knows. We don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I
just
think,
speculation.
yeah, the speculation would be that like they understood that if you did this and then you like stood something else up there, the fact that you had like pitted this out would like help with like the stability and like the traction or the sliding resistance, or like kind of lock
Maybe.
it in a little bit. But it
Yeah.
doesn't look particularly like, if you can imagine a bunch of things standing up in each of these slots, it doesn't really look like that would make much sense. Like, well, what
No,
is this then? It's
I don't
not really
know.
lined up. Like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's crazy. I don't know. Speaking of Luxor, so that evening, we were at Luxor. I guess I didn't mention that at the end of the day, of the Osirian and Abydos day, so the day before this one, in the evening we took a flight from Cairo down to Luxor. So yeah, we're in Luxor now, um, and our hotel was right near Luxor Temple. We went there at sunset. So this was just a visually amazing day. People probably know this from Las Vegas, but the actual site is incredible. This obelisk is enormous. These statues are enormous. You can kind of see the scale of a human standing near one of them
Mhm.
down here. And we got a really nice sunset. The clouds were illuminated from below, and they do really nice lighting here. This site is mobbed with tourists at all times. This was not a special private access or anything, but it's huge. It's really impressive. It's very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
this statue is one that Yusuf here likes to point out, and as again, potential evidence of like reuse. This is a very impressive, symmetrical, finely done, enormous granite statue. Um, Very beautifully done. You can even see like it's so polished that it's reflecting the light. It has the care of like the knees and the
Hmm.
geometric perfection of like the lines in this skirt, or whatever you would call this. And yet, right here, it has this cartouche kind of roughly just chiseled into it, and it overlaps like this, whatever he went out of his way to say, look, that's not a dagger, the size of it is not correct, it's not a dagger, but whatever that thing is, a quill or something, that's part of the original carving. It's done very finely,
Yeah.
but then this shit was just like laid over top of it.
Yeah.
It's not even like, it doesn't even line up with this, like it's not even symmetrical,
Yeah.
like with the
And once you
center.
notice stuff like this, you just see it everywhere. Like the fineness and like yeah, the pattern on his kilt or whatever, his skirt
Hmm.
is beautiful. It's absolutely flawless. And then the cartouche is completely different. Yeah.
Hmm.
It just yeah, it reflects light differently. It's not the same thing.
Right. We'll see more of this. I have a really good example of this from the Ramesseum,
And I
which
think this
was
is one of the examples of the faces where Christopher Dunn goes into it. I mean, these faces were lower at one point. They were reconstructing the statues, and it's perfectly symmetrical.
yeah,
Granite,
yeah,
too, by the way.
yeah. Another fun fact about Luxor was that like when they first encountered this site archaeologically, these things were buried basically like up to their shoulders. It just goes to show you like how much excavation was done. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, this site's amazing. This whole site is enormous. It has huge like causeways or whatever you would call them of these enormous pillars. And again, get a load of these lintel pieces. They're massive.
Those lentils are absolutely incredible. And I know the Egyptians could have cut those limestone lentils. They could have physically cut it, but the sharpness of the corners. And how high up are those? I mean, that's 50 feet up.
Yeah. Yeah. This
Maybe. I
is,
mean,
yeah,
maybe.
this is a hell of a place. And, you know, Yusuf always says, don't underestimate the dynastic Egyptians. Like, he doesn't want to undercut the ancient high technology, like pyramid builder line of thinking by being so credulous that he just attributes everything to that. You know, he always likes to say, like, you know, keep in mind that the ancient Egyptians, who we doubt actually could have made the pyramids or the Serapeum boxes, did do absolutely incredible things. So I think he puts this into that category. I don't care so much one way or the other about like which bucket we put each individual thing into, but it's just like once you start seeing how huge these things are, it's just we were noticing them like all throughout the trip. It's just really something to think about.
Yeah.
Here's a boner inside a Luxor temple, and you can see that like every
Yeah,
tourist loves
everybody
touching the
touches it.
boner.
Oh, look, dude.
Okay, so now I'm moving on to Valley of the Kings, but do you have anything else to throw in there?
Yeah, I got a couple of things from Luxor real
All
quick
right,
to
good.
show you guys.
How are you on time? You want to just like blow this out to a marathon episode?
Uh yeah, dude, I gotta go to bed at some point.
We can go faster. Like we're spending. It's going to be disproportionate. It's not going to be the
Yeah,
same
I
amount
don't
of
really
time on
want to
each
go
day.
faster, but all right, this is what I have from Luxor. This it's a
Yeah,
crown that was laid on the ground. It's behind a rope here. I guess you're really not supposed to touch it, but this is one of the things I was with oh, who's the Australian guy?
Brian,
And the older
Greg,
Australian guy,
Greg.
Greg. Dude, I
Yeah.
was with Greg and I went and reached out to touch this, and my initial reaction was, "Holy shit!" And he touched it, and he had the same reaction. I get it. It's shiny and it looks smooth. How long has this been outside? And it is unbelievably smooth.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's more smooth than a kitchen counter, but it doesn't feel like a kitchen counter. It feels there's something. I don't know, man. It's crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
that was my input there. Dude, it's crazy, Derek.
All right.
Highly eloquent commentary there.
The next day we went to the Valley of the Kings, and this was really cool. This is just in the lobby. This is not really a big deal, but this is just a model that they put together that shows how each of the different like subterranean tombs looks. Um, so you think about this as like, you know, you're inside of the earth here looking at how these chambers are carved out into the rock, and the way that you access them is through this like valley on the outside. Just a cool little depiction. um, if you go here as a tourist, just be aware that like you get like a basic ticket that gives you entry to I think like three of these, and then you can pay extra to get into more and more of them. So we went into five total, including King Tut's. One awesome thing about the Valley of the Kings is that because these are tombs that are basically mostly protected from the elements, the painting is in incredible condition. I never expected to see something that was this like fresh and colorful looking, that was from ancient Egypt. So it was really cool. This was inside the tomb of Ramses the fifth and sixth, if I believe. They're both in there.
Hmm.
There because there's two different
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
yeah, there's two different huge stone sarcophagi in this like tomb chamber. This is one of them. It was reconstructed from fragments. But I just thought this was really cool because just there's so much just intricate painting and just messages on the wall. I obviously no clue what most of this means, although our guides did do a good job of
Pretty sure
picking
that's
out
the
things.
sun.
But yeah, like you see like yeah, the raw disc, the sun disc, and you see a lot of this stuff that's like showing captives or these like beheaded captives. You see a lot of boat symbolism. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just thought this looked really badass.
They really
There's
cared.
yeah, yeah, this is a big deal. Here's King Tut. This is like literally the mummified head of the real King Tut mummy. I just It's pretty amazing that that was just there to be seen. Didn't expect that.
Dude, it's a celebrity.
Yeah, it's um yeah, and then this was inside. I'm pretty sure this was the um Marin Ptah, the tomb of
Yeah.
Marin Ptah, which had two different huge stone pieces in it. This box and then the sarcophagus back
Well,
here.
this was at the bottom of the Marimbata tomb. There's another one a little bit higher up that was also huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, these things are yeah gigantic.
Again, like the Osiris shaft. These granite, these hard stone boxes inside these limestone shafts.
Right.
I
Yeah, I
don't know,
mean
dude,
this
kind of
room is
crazy.
bigger, but when you're in the hallways, like getting down to this room, like it's still narrow and you're still just left wondering like how in the hell did this get here? But I mean, unlike the Serapeum and unlike the pyramid, we do actually know that these were actually tombs. Um, so that does change the narrative a little bit. But even that doesn't necessarily mean that this box was originally here for tomb reasons. It could have been reused as a tomb later.
Yeah, of course. I mean, no, the Serapeum, I mean, those were tombs. It
I mean,
was used as a tomb at some point, sure.
that's what they say, but I mean, like, yeah, they found Apis bull in one of them, I think, and all of the other ones were empty when
I
they
don't
were
think they found an
discovered.
Apis bull in any of them. I mean, they did find Apis bulls inside the Serapeum chamber shaft, but not inside those granite boxes.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So
No, there's
yeah,
like some cache of mummified bulls off towards the side, and then there's these big boxes. It's like, oh yeah, maybe.
we wound up going to I think four different places on this day. Some of these days were really long and full and exhausting. Um, so I'm moving on from the Valley of the Kings now to the Colossi of Memnon.
Them
Um,
none.
this is basically like a roadside attraction. I mean, it's literally right off the side of the road. And this is it. I mean, you can see there's actually a couple other ones back here. This was formerly there was more stuff on this site, but there's not much remaining. This one was destroyed and rebuilt in an earthquake, I guess. Um, is
I
that
don't know.
I can't remember if that was the story, but this one is still pretty much all one piece, and yeah, they're just absolutely enormous, and that's it. They're just gigantic statues. That's pretty much all there is to it. This is the only picture I included from this site, but it was really cool just going right up to these things.
Yeah, those are what 800 tons each.
Is that right? I couldn't remember the
Yeah.
figure. Yeah, that's a shitload. Um, this is the Ramesseum, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
Um, it's easy to forget how the Ramesseum site itself, like what we're looking at here, like is itself like absolutely incredible because the one collapsed statue at the Ramesseum is so like overawing that it was really like the only thing that I actually remembered until I went back and looked at the pictures. I was like, damn, this whole place is cool. Um, but when I was actually there, I mean, all that I remembered was this thing. This is the
Yeah.
famous thing at the Ramesseum. You can see this is its feet. This is the platform that the statue was supposed to stand on. It was presumably supposed to be like seated or crouched in some sort of position. It's broken and tipped over. We don't know why. And this enormous piece here is the super fascinating bit. Um, Here's what it looks like from the other side. It's really hard to describe how huge it is. You don't happen to know the weight on this, do you? Hundreds of tons.
Yeah, yeah, hundreds of tons. I wouldn't. Yeah,
But it's another one of those examples where if you look up close at the headpiece, for example, we were able to like pour water on it and stuff. Like these ridges are perfectly smooth. These ones are rough, but they're rough in a very even way, in a very evenly roughed up way. Um, but then you look at again the cartouche that's on the side of it. It's like this thing is like lumpy. They couldn't even make like one rounded surface here, but
yeah.
like the head is perfect. The inside of this ear is incredibly perfect. It's
It's
just like
perfect.
this
Yeah,
compound geometric, like French curved
yeah.
thing. It's just it's really unbelievable to see like these two things right next to each other. It's just a really nice piece of evidence for the ancient high technology. And again, like we saw in that statue at Luxor, like these perfect lines here, just it's yeah, it's not very believable that this would be like the same work as that cartouche that we saw chiseled onto it.
Right.
That puts it into context a little bit.
Yeah.
Standing away from it more, you can really get a
Humongous.
sense of this thing was fucking huge. And you can see these statues are pieces. These are layered up in pieces. So
Yeah.
these look big, but actually they're smaller than this, and they're made up of individual pieces. This is one huge piece of granite, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that thing's unbelievable. Ben has a whole Ramesseum thing that's definitely worth checking out. Later on that night, we went to the Luxor Museum, which is a small museum, but really cool. And this was just kind of like a running joke about how like these insane stone jars, like this one is so thin, like you can basically see through it. It has this minuscule fine lip on it, like fine china that your grandma would have. Although china is like, porcelain is way easierly, more easily molded into a shape like this than stone is. Obviously, this is super hard stone, incredibly precisely done. But it's just thrown into the same display case as like this shitty pottery, and they're just like, "Look, ancient Egyptian jars." It's like
Yeah.
when Yusuf looks at this thing and he's like pulling his hair out, like just saying, "Like, no, like you have to understand what it means that these two things being next to each other suggest something that is really important to think about. It's just this is not the same type of thing as this."
You got to watch YouTube videos of people trying to recreate those stone jars with the supposedly ancient Egyptian techniques. I mean, fiasco. I think I used that word before. I mean, this lady spent like 6 months on it, didn't even get close, and then it just broke in half.
Yeah. Whoops.
And they found 40,000 of those.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next day. You got anything?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
What time is
Um,
it?
Keeping us moving. It's
Yeah, can we
8:40.
wrap up pretty soon?
Oh,
We can do this some other night.
you want to do a part two?
Yeah, maybe we should do a part two.
Well, this could be a teaser for part two. This is getting into Karnak Temple. And from there we're gonna cruise the Nile
Oh
for a
yeah,
little
Karnak's
bit.
insane.
Yeah, Karnak's insane. I don't have a ton of pictures from there, although I can beef it up for next time. Yeah, we can see how this goes, see how the video looks, and tweak things if we need to. We're going to cruise the Nile a little bit after this, and then return to Giza for the, Dashur, the two pyramids there, which were incredible. Saqqara with the step pyramid and the Serapeum, and then finally our private accesses to the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber, and Subterranean Chamber in the Great Pyramid to close things out, which were like, I mean, you ain't seen nothing yet. Like this stuff is absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
yeah,
All right,
yeah. So this
sweet.
is yeah, good start, good teaser. Yeah, I'm just kind of losing it here, dude.
I guess that's part one. Yeah, everybody let us know what you think. Thebrazenheadspodcast at gmail.com. Obviously, this is a new approach for how to do this, but I hope everyone was able to see the pictures and hear us nicely. And, we did it in a pretty simplistic way, but I think it worked out nicely.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, good talking with you, buddy.
All right. Yeah, we will get
I'll
back
see
to
you
this
for
in the
round two.
future. Yeah, sounds good. Talk to you soon.